Court filings are giving us a better idea of the Dolphin Company's federal bankruptcy case. Since March, we've been reporting that the Dolphin Company's international bankruptcy case is affecting the welfare of thousands of animals around the world. These new documents provide more details about who the company owes, how much they owe, and what they're declaring as assets. News 13's Grace Velez joins us live in our studios. Grace, is there anything unusual with the summary of these assets?
Well, Shelby, the most unusual thing is that these documents are coming out now. Typically in Chapter 11 bankruptcy cases, the schedule of assets and liabilities and statements of financial affairs are released within the first couple of weeks of the bankruptcy filing, not after the bid procedure process has already started, which is where we're at now. And this delay is a further testament to how unusual this bankruptcy case has been and how difficult the former board members and CEO, Eduardo Albor, have made it for the restructuring team.
This is Tiger King on steroids with dolphins, and there needs to be a confiscation and animals removed from the Dolphin Company's parks before more animals continue to die.
Valerie Greene's dedication in the marine life world as a member of the TideBreakers organization and a former SeaWorld trainer speaks to her credibility. But what many people don't know is she also has a law degree. Greene compulsively keeps up with the Dolphin Company's mammoth bankruptcy case, although it doesn't take a lawyer to realize the abnormalities at hand or the animals at risk. There's a schedule of assets for each of the Dolphin Company's subsidiaries. Each set of documents paints the picture that the liabilities far outweigh the assets. Although it must be noted some of the most valuable assets, the animals, appear with the word undetermined next to them. Unfortunately, the welfare of many of the animals is undetermined as well.
We are concerned about missing animals in these filings. We are concerned with who is going to be purchasing these animals that, for all intents and purposes, have been sick. They've been living in deplorable conditions for quite some time, and they're going to need significant rehabilitation and medical attention depending on who this buyer is.
A bankruptcy practitioner familiar with the case says the term undetermined value could mean the debtors' counsel is allowing the bidding process to determine the value of the animals. But the uncomfortable truth is, who's going to buy these animals if they are sick or dying?
I think in terms of the highest bidder, that's not even the point right now. These animals are all used to being in conditions that are unclean, that are unsafe. Their habitats are falling apart around them. The water that they live in constantly is unclean and or cleaned with chlorine that can cause damage to their eyes and their skin. So while the bankruptcy court is preoccupied with determining what these assets are valued at, we are concerned with where these animals are going to end up.
Greene says the TideBreakers organization believes former CEO Eduardo Albor intentionally filed for bankruptcy to maintain ownership of the animals.
The bankruptcy automatic stay puts a halt from anything like collections to confiscations, and these animals were set to be confiscated by various agencies. And all of that came to a halt with the bankruptcy filing, which we believe was done intentionally to avoid confiscation of the most valuable assets for the Dolphin Company, which are the animals.
The Gulf World Marine Park facility was shut down because of deteriorating conditions, dolphin deaths, and public pressure. No animals remain at the facility, but they are not out of sight, out of mind. 4 dolphins were transferred from Gulf World to another Dolphin Company park, Marine Land in St. Augustine, over public objections. Videos taken in late July show the park's condition seems to have already deteriorated significantly since those dolphins arrived in June.
We've seen the water quality take a dramatic turn for the worse, and it's not looking far off from how Gulf World was looking when things got really, really bad. And there is a concern for these animals, which is why we are urging Congress to intervene, because the USDA and NOAA are not enforcing the Animal Welfare Act and the Marine Mammal Protection Act in regard to captive marine mammals.
Greene believes the USDA has the power to revoke the Dolphin Company's license and confiscate the animals. There's also questions about the amount of intercompany receivables spread across the different subsidiaries.
I find the intercompany receivables and the amounts that were lent to the various parks from the other parks that are owned by the Dolphin Company to be incredibly concerning. What's going on there? How are these parks managing to stay afloat currently?
Greene speculates the corporations appear to have used intercompany receivables to artificially inflate the values and viability of the companies. Many of the Dolphin Company's facilities remain operational, and while the animals and many of the properties have been prepped for sale, it's unclear which will come first.
Will the new ownership understand the complexities of these aging facilities that have desperate need? I mean, there is no fixing these parks aside from Dolphin Connection, which is the one that's sea pen based. These parks need to be demolished and destroyed.
The public may not get a lot of answers from these filings, but it is a glimpse into a very complicated international bankruptcy case. And unless the public stays diligent, Greene believes the animals may get lost in all of the legal maneuvers.
Grace, how can people access the petition for congressional oversight?
Shelby, we have a link to that petition on our website, mypanhandle.com.
All right, thank you. That's Grace Velez reporting live from our studio.